The drought is over as the Chicago Cubs have won the 2017 World Series over the Houston Astros, as it was completely new opponents in the World Series this year because the Cubs beat the Dodgers in the NLCS, also ironically in 5 games. But that's not the team that we're focusing on. We need to get into the Blue Jays offseason as they look to become title contenders once again. So here are the retirees of the offseason. I'm going to speed this up quite a bit. The only Blue Jays retiree was Andre Ethier, which I actually kind of didn't expect. I was hoping to bring him back as a 4th outfielder next year, and it changed a little bit of my offseason plans because I was going to platoon him with Chris Colabello next year because I looked at the splits and Chris Colabello was terrible against right-handed pitching this year, but it didn't really alter anything a whole lot. As you can see, a lot of free agents actually retired, Carlos Beltran and Marlon Byrd and people of that nature too, because they did not go sign. They went the whole year without being re-signed and went through the whole thing to see if anybody notable was on that list that might have made the Hall of Fame or anything. And really no surprises here. A-Rod, Jimmy Rollins, Carlos Beltran, and Adrian Beltre all made the Hall of Fame. I think they all should in real life anyway, so I was not surprised by any of that. So on the screen in a second, you are going to see the players that we did re-sign to contracts. The only notable thing that we did really was only gave Josh Donaldson a 3-year deal, and we declined Edwin Encarnacion's team option and extended him the qualifying offer. I wanted to free up the money for the offseason, but he would actually end up declining the qualifying offer. So we would have to make a move, and that move was a giant salary dump with the Washington Nationals. We will be picking up 2 big prospects in this trade, Adam Nelson and Edgar Arias, who is a relief pitcher. And Adam Nelson is one of the top 50 prospects. He has B potential, 89 potential overall. Shortstop who can play pretty much any position, and he has really good contact ratings. And we also get Gio Gonzalez, who I think is an upgrade over J.A. Happ, and I think that will help us stretch it to a 4-man playoff rotation earlier next year and be a little bit more successful, as well as getting rid of Edwin Encarnacion. Now this trade makes sense from the perspective that Edwin Encarnacion has been injured for us the last 2 years. I want to give a spot to Dalton Pompey, which means I'm going to move Jose Bautista permanently to DH, which would make sense because his fielding is down to like 37 and his arm strength is going, and his hitting stats haven't really regressed all that much, so it made sense from that perspective. And also, Ryan Zimmerman has been terrible for them all year, and not all year, all franchise. He's been terrible the last 2 years, and they really could use an upgrade at that spot as they are looking to contend for a World Series, as well as J.A. Happ will be a pretty simple replacement for Gio Gonzalez because he is also left-handed, and there are a few prospects that are in the Washington system that can come up and replace him if he's not very good. So I thought it was a very fair trade for both sides. We got prospects. They got a elite first baseman who maybe not necessarily can play the field great, but he does provide a lot of value with his bat. He had a 900 OPS the last 2 seasons. So let's move on. We did make a couple minor free agent signings. We signed Pat Neshek to a deal for 1 year for minor league depth, and I don't have footage of it, but we did also sign Sean Rodriguez because we were not able to retain Ryan Goins because he wanted a little bit too much money, so we had to let go of him. And we were short on another left-handed bench bat because Andre Ethier also retired, so we went out and signed Logan Morrison, who can play both first base and the outfield corners. He's a pretty solid left-handed hitter. He can hit off of righties very well and not do a whole lot else, so we did sign him to a 2-year, $2.2 million deal. And we did go on a big prospect splurge in last year's free agency, but there was really nobody this year that was even all that great ratings-wise or anything that we needed to fill out the minor leagues because we don't have a lot of really bad guys that aren't young and going to improve anyway. So we did sign one guy, though, out of free agency that was a prospect, and that's Eric Rosario, who's actually a really developed hitter. He's only 20 years old. He's left-handed, pretty good speed, and if he can work on his fielding and get those hitting stats up a little bit more, as well as the durability, is kind of a concern. I'm probably going to up that, though, because a lot of the players are just down by default anyway, so I might up it a few points. But if he can improve, he's definitely going to be one of the steals of free agency for the Toronto Blue Jays. He looks like a pretty solid prospect in an aging Blue Jays outfield. But we did have one more move to make, and you will see that on your screen right now. We traded Chris Colabello as well as Tom Chen and Jason Manning, a couple of kind of low-level prospects, to the San Diego Padres for young Gervis Solarte, as well as a couple of relievers. our farm system was short on relief talent, and all of our relievers currently are of 30 or older, except for Roberto Ozuna and Kelvin Herrera, who we actually really might not retain after this year because he might get too expensive. So I think, and Kenley Jansen I think is 29, but all of our middle relievers are very old, so I wanted to make a move to assess that, as well as swapping out our lineup a little bit. I thought our lineup was a little bit too right-handed the last 2 years, and it was kind of hard to play against right-handed pitching sometimes because the way this game works, it's easier for righties to hit off lefties and lefties to hit off righties. It's just the way it's programmed, and Yangervis Solarte fixes that problem. He also gives us a solid number 2 hitter. I felt like we had a few too many power guys last year, not enough on-base guys. And especially now that we're moving Jose Bautista down a spot in the lineup to the 3rd spot instead of the 2nd spot, I wanted a guy who could get on base. And Yangervis Solarte had a 380 OBP last year. I'm not expecting him to repeat that, but anything above 350 would be very solid. So I don't have any outro footage or anything, so that's going to do it for this. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy, and stay tuned. Year 3 of the Blue Jays franchise is going to be a big one. See you then.